Hey everybody, here we are again. Today we got another training in our specific training series. We already looked at the shoulders, we already looked at knee problems. Today we're going to zoom in a little bit on the lower back area. There is a very common problem that we know in the lower back that we call the lower cross syndrome. It is also very similar to what we have in the upper back. Shoulders go to the front, which means that there's not enough tension in the back and too much tension in the front. Same thing can happen in your lower back area. How do you know if you have this? There's a simple test that you can do. What I want you to do is make a squat with your arms up, go down, and try and keep in this position. So I do not want to see that your arms go to the front. I also don't want to see that your body goes to the front. What would you want to see? What do you want to see? I want to see the line of my upper body be the same line as my lower leg. This has to roughly be the same edges, the same corners, the same directions. Check this for yourself. If you notice that you can't go down deeper than this, and then you have to go off of your heels, then you probably need this training. If you notice you can go down without going to the front with your upper body, you probably need this training. Yet again, if you experience low back pain, hip pain, then this video might help you a lot. Not every exercise or pain is the same. If you have any doubt, let me know. I'll give you some tips, I'll look into it, and then we'll make a plan together. First off, we're going to go to the whiteboard. I'll show you what we're going to do. After that, we're going to get it going. Okay, this training about the lower cross syndrome, it consists of 3 phases. First off, it is important for you to know what kind of type of posture do you have. Second off, it is important to know what kind of behavior makes this syndrome appear. Third off, what kind of corrective exercises do you have to do? These 3 things I want to go through with you. So hopefully at the end of the video, you know how to deal with your lower cross syndrome. Yet again, you know the little trick. This is the one to see if that is going on with you. Yes, we're going to go to phase 1. Okay, the first phase of this video is about your posture. There's different posture types that you should be aware of. Somebody by themselves, by default, will have their shoulders more rounded to the front, or will have their head more to the front, or will have a larger arch in their lower back. This is something that we can partially change, but this is not necessarily something that leads to problems. So often it is corrected when there's problems, but it's not necessarily the case that if you have a forward posture, that has to lead to issues. So even though you know that you have a big arch in your lower back, does not necessarily mean that you have to do this training. There's a lot more that comes to it, and one of the most important things is your behavior. Phase 2 of this video. We talked about your posture type. That is who you are, what you are, how you are. We can change it if it causes problems, but it's not something we can change all the way. More important than your posture type is your behavior. If you know that you sit a lot during the day, then you can already figure that this is something that will be bad for your posture. Especially if you sit 8 hours a day, not have nice posture, but you slouch. And this is very common, especially with people who work 8 hours a day behind a desk. Even though if you start your day with good posture, if you're concentrating on your work, most likely you will start slouching a little bit. This is only sitting, but this also goes for sleeping. If you sleep with 2 pillows under your head and your head is all the way up, this might lead to problems. Also with standing, with walking, with running, there's postural changes and posture types that influence your behavior. No, it's not the postural type. Correct it. Okay, stop it. Phase 3 of this specific training. Corrective exercise. Very important to go through phase 1, know what type of posture you have. Phase 2, know what kind of behavior leads up to that posture type. How do you change that and be aware of that behavior. And now the third one, the corrective exercises. The lower cross syndrome is defined as too much tension in your lower back and in your hip flexors. Also, not enough tension in your abdomen and your glute area. So there's a weak link going through your body from the abs to the glute, and there's a strong, too strong link from your lower back to your hip. So this makes an X. That's how we come with the lower cross syndrome. What we want to do, the muscles that are too tight, so the front and the back, we want to stretch. The muscles that are too loose, too inactive, abs and the glutes, we want to activate. So I'm going to take you through a little stretching routine. After that, a little workout, a little working routine, and then we have our corrective exercises done. Good luck with this. Let me know if anything is unclear or if you want to know anything about these exercises or about your pain. brightlands@fysiobastians.nl is where you can contact me. The first stretch that I want you to start doing is the seated low back stretch. You're going to need a chair for it or a bench. What I want you to do is to sit down. We're going to go to the front from our upper body, but I want you to start from your chin. So your chin goes on your chest. Slowly slouch your shoulders to the front. Make your lower back slouch and make yourself small to the front. Let your body go to your knees, and once you hit the knees, if you can hit the knees, relax. We want to hold this for 20 to 30 seconds. If you already reach your knees with your shoulders, then your low back flexibility is pretty decent. And this stretch will not do that much for you, but it's still good to practice, especially to practice this roll down from your chin. Start here and try and feel all your spine segments open up. So move to the front while you move and you open up all those spine segments in the back. This was the first one. We're going to the second stretch. The second stretch. Now we're going to aim at the front of our leg. The hip flexor stretch. What I want you to do is sit on one knee and the other foot goes in the front. Now push your hips slightly to the front while contracting your glute muscles. So what I want you to do is sit on one knee. From here, move your hips slightly to the front while contracting your glute muscles. Make sure that your upper body doesn't move to the front with it, because you won't feel anything. Stay all the way straight, push your hip to the front, contract your glute muscles, and I feel stretch now in the front of my hip. This is what you want to feel. Again, we're going to hold this for 20 to 30 seconds. After those 20-30 seconds, we're going to switch side. Okay, take the other side. Push your hips to the front. Keep your glutes contracted. Feel the stretch in the front. Okay, you can stop. I made a mistake. Okay, so we did a stretch for the low back, we did a stretch for the hip flexor. There's another important hip flexor that we want to train, and that is the upper leg. What we're going to do, one hand goes to the wall, the other hand grabs the ankle to the back, and then we're going to push your hips to the front, slightly, doesn't need that much. Now you should feel a good stretch on your quadriceps. We want to hold this for a 20 to 30 seconds. You can repeat these stretches 2 or 3 times, 20 to 30 seconds each. Totally fine. It's also fine if you just do them once. Go for the other corrective exercises and do this whole training 2 to 3 times a week. Take the other side. (20 to 30 seconds). And we're going to take the last stretch. Last stretch that I'm going to show you guys. We had 2 for the front of the leg, we had only 1 now for the back. There's another important muscle that I want you to stretch in the lower back. We call this one the Quadratus lumborum. It's a little bit to the side, not all the way in the middle, a little bit to the side. It attaches to your pelvis and to your ribs. To stretch this muscle, put your feet shoulder width apart. I want to stretch the right side, so my right arm goes up and I'm going to reach over. Let this arm hang. Try and focus on this area where the muscle that we want to stretch is located. Feel the stretch and hold it again for 20 to 30 seconds. And we're going to switch side. The other arm goes up. Slowly move to the side. Focus on when I feel the stretch. There it is. I want to hold it again and try and relax. Make sure you keep feeling this stretch. Okay, that was the last stretch. We're going to go for the exercises. Okay, the corrective exercises are going to focus on relaxing the muscles that are too active, too stiff, and contracting the muscles that are too inactive. One thing that I want you to start practicing already is a pelvis tilt. I want you to be smooth in this motion, twisting or tilting the pelvis back and forth. I want you to start practicing this in 3 different ways. First one, on the ground. We're going to lay on our back. From here, we're gonna try and pull our belly button in and pull our hip towards our face. Then push the hip back, which will create an arch in my lower back. So with other words, push your lower back in the ground, hip comes towards myself, and then arch my lower back, push my hip away. And pull in and push out. And lower back is flat in the ground, low back is off of the ground. And flat in the ground and off the ground. Repeat this exercise at least 12 times. What we just did on the ground, we're now going to try sitting down. Try and do 12 to 15 reps before you move to the next one. Do all 3 of these 3 times. What I want you to do, sit down, hands on your hips, and from here, exactly the same like we did on the ground, try and push your low back in the ground, so my hip tilts backwards, and then make an arch in your lower back by tilting your hips to the front. We go back to the front, back to the front, back to the front, back and to the front is 1 repetition. Do this 12 times, then proceed to the next exercise. Okay. Okay, the third exercise, same thing again, just another different position. I want you to get on all fours, hands and knees. From here, we're going to repeat. Rotate the pelvis. So flatten your lower back and push your lower back out. Also this one we want to do 12 times. If you do this training a couple times a week and you keep up with your stretching exercises, you should feel that this will get easier and easier. So practice on these stretches and on this pelvic motion. It should get easier. Now we're going to start with the muscle training of the other muscles. Let's go. From the corrective exercises, it is very important to train the glute and train the abs. That is what this set is focusing on. First up, what we're going to do, we're going to go on the ground, on our back. Put your feet in the ground. And now I want you to push your hips up. Contract your glute muscles. And slowly go back down. Hip up. Contract the glutes, slowly back down. Up, contract, down. We're going to do this one on time, so we're going to do 50 seconds, a little rest, and we go to the next one. Next exercise is going to be a bear walk. No, it's not. Next exercise is a plank. I want you to do a modified plank. Usually we do from the toes and the elbows. Now I want to ask you to do it from your knees. And why? Because usually if you have overactive hip flexors, they will assist in keeping you up with a plank. The one thing we don't want to do is train your hip flexors even more. We want to train your abs. So by doing it from your knees, you can relax your hip flexors a little more and you can focus good on this contraction from your abs. So what I want you to do is go on your elbows and your knees. Make sure your knees are not all the way under your body. Pull them back a little bit so your hip levels with your shoulders. And from here, we're going to try and push the very low part of our spine upwards. I'll show you a little zoom in of this so you have a good understanding of what we want to do. If you do this correctly, most likely you will start shaking. This is totally fine. You are doing it good. And usually we can only do this exercise a couple good clean reps in a row. If you manage to do 5 or 6 good reps and you feel like you're starting to slack a little bit on quality of the movement, take a little rest. Not a problem. If you're doing this for a couple weeks and you notice that you can do 10 reps or 12 reps of pushing this low back up while in the plank position, you can make it slightly more challenging by adding a knee lift. What you want to do then is on your elbows and your knees, push the lower part of the spine up, and then try and lift one knee without arching your lower back. So I want one knee to go up without my low back to go in a huge arch. I want to keep pushing up for my lower back while one knee goes up. Yet again, this is an intense exercise. Practice a lot on doing a quality movement. Don't go too quick to full extended body, lifting up the knees. Take it slow and feel the contraction, and then slowly proceed to the next. This is very important for these exercises. Last exercise that I want to do with you is a Superman. We have an exercise to activate the glutes, an exercise to activate the abs. Now we want to activate the stimulation from the brain, so the control of your nerve system. What we're going to do for this, I want you to go on your hands and knees. One arm goes to the front, and the opposite leg goes back. Also with this, pull in your belly button and slightly push that lower part of the spine up. So we're not going into a huge arch in the lower back. Try and keep your lower back neutral. Yes, these are the exercises we're going to work with. Good luck.
I ain't feeling lonely, and I wanna admit it's time to end the ride. Fading it too slowly, with those gonna lift me up this time. You were the only one who got me tripping up inside. All the words you told me, am I reading something different from your eyes? See you for a moment, even hope that I can feel you. I see you, all that I wanted was to tell you that I need you.
The last set that I have for you guys is a set with big movements. You should be able to do these movements in a good quality way. If you feel like it is not going like we should, don't do these last exercises yet, but proceed with the first exercises that I gave you for a couple weeks. If you manage to do a nice squat without all of these compensations, then you might want to go to this set. First exercise in this set is a squat. We use the squat a lot just because it is a very good exercise, a lot of muscles working together, and that is what we want to achieve. Also, in the beginning I gave you this little quick test. This is exactly how we're going to do the squat right now. So keep your arms up, your arms go back, you're going to go down, contract your abs and come back up. Down, arms stay back, contract your abs and come back up. This is the first exercise. Second exercise is we're going to do a lunge. One foot to the front, go down in the lunge and come back up. It's totally fine if you keep it on one foot and then switch afterwards. What I want you to try is to move your pelvis slightly. You got to be able to go down and still have some movement in your pelvis. You don't need to keep moving your pelvis the whole movement, but check it out. See if you have this control to go down and still have a small pelvic tilt. That is the control that we want to get. The third exercise is going to be a deadlift. We've done the deadlift many times before too. Just like the squat, you use a lot of big muscles, and that is what we want. So go for a deadlift, but now we're going to do a stiff-legged deadlift. This means you keep your legs all the way extended, and now you move slowly to the front. Back up. Slowly to the front. Again, my point of rotation is in my hip, not in my lower back, so we're not going to slouch. Back stays straight from the hip, we're going to rotate to the front. With my legs extended, I will feel a slight stretch on my hamstrings, in the back of my legs, and that is totally fine. If you go to the front, you feel stretch, I cannot go deeper than this, or I have to go into a slouch. We don't want that, so we go until we can go further, and come back up. And come back up. If you want to use some light weights, not a problem. This is the third set. Get ready.
gonna throw my memories away. Now I feel I'm done, and I am cursed by every day till my time is gone. I've never felt this way before, and now I know this all for sure. I won't forget your last betray. I'll never forget this day. forget this day. I'll never forget this day. I'm gonna throw my memories away. Now I feel I'm done, and I'm cursed by every day till my time is gone. I've never felt this way before, and now I know this all for sure. I won't forget your last betray. I'll never forget this day. Forget this day. I'll never forget this day. Forget this day. I'm gonna throw my memories away. Now I feel I'm done, and I'm cursed by every day till my time is gone. I've never felt this way before, and now I know this all for sure. I won't forget your last betray. I'll never forget this day. I'll take us back to times when lives were similar and times that all seemed easier. Don't be afraid, I'll be the one to guide you through this endless maze. Don't look so sad, your crying eyes won't dry. You've gotta drive with both headlights so we can see the world and we'll run away together like come close to me. I'll whisper in your ear the things that we could be. I'll drown.
This is the end of this specific training about the lower cross syndrome. Yet again, this video is not for everybody with hip and low back complaints. Make sure you get a professional to check out what the problem is, especially if you have severe pain. During the exercises, a little bit of pain is usually acceptable. If you take a scale from 0 to 10, 0 you don't feel anything, 10 the pain is unbearable. If you feel a 2 or a 3, that is fine. If you go at a 6 or a 7, stop, don't continue. Send me a message, we'll make an appointment and we'll check out what the problem is and I'll tell you exactly what to do and what exercises not to do. We came to an end. I want to thank everybody for watching my video, especially everybody who gives me all these tips and all this advice. Thank you very much. I'm going to continue making these videos for you guys. Try and keep up and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.